Hi guys, and a very warm welcome back to the Gimme A Hull Yeah Wrestling podcast. This is the first episode of Wrestling with Bands that we're going to be doing. We've got Faux Pas from Manchester, or rather Joey from Faux Pas, who's the drummer. We talked about the Boneyard match, the 5-5 Funhouse match, and also the band itself. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and we'll see you again really soon. Hi guys, my name is Don from the Gimme A Hull Yeah Wrestling podcast and Southswing magazine. I'm here with Joey from Faux Pas. We're going to start something brand new on the channel where we interview bands about wrestling. So Joey, obviously I know and love Faux Pas. You're an amazing band, touring all over the place, obviously before lockdown. How have you been coping in this time? How are the band doing?
Well, thank you very much. It's very kind of you to say. We've been doing okay. It's been a little difficult because we've all been a little bit scattered. Rue and Lewis and Joe and Becca are all in the same house, and they're all in Manchester, but I'm in York and Arthur's in Carlisle at the minute. So we haven't been able to get together as much to do a lot of, you're seeing a lot of people doing this kind of live sort of band play together, all that kind of stuff, or people, we're not being able to do that kind of thing because we're not in the same environment, but we're still keeping on top of stuff. There's a lot of things in the works. Loads of stuff in the works, in fact. We were quite fortunate with the timing of all of this, actually, because we've been gigging pretty constantly. We went on that tour live in October, and we hadn't really stopped until probably about the end of March. We were pretty constantly going at it. So we decided, we were like, right, we'll take a bit of a break here. We'll have a breather. We don't have anything booked until June at this point. We were going to be at Long Division in Wakefield, which has now been rescheduled. And thankfully, we can still be a part of that as long as it still goes ahead. And I really hope it does because it's a great day out.
Amazing, yeah.
Really good lineup.
For sure.
But also, obviously, we'll have to see about that. But yeah, we've been quite fortunate in that we've seen, obviously, so many bands whose tours have had to be rescheduled, and they've spent, and you and I both know how long it takes to put a tour together.
Yeah.
And then to have to change it all that last minute, and it's just an absolute nightmare. So I know there's so many bands that have put a lot of work into something that's ultimately not been able to happen. And for some of them, it might not happen again. And thankfully, I don't know that many people that's the case for. Most people I know have been able to sort of get back on the horse and rebook those tours or replan those releases, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's good, man. I mean, like I say, it's people are adapting. I've noticed a lot of bands are adapting and stuff and everything. Have you been able to? Obviously, you haven't been able to do like music stuff, but have you been keeping in touch and everything? Like,
yeah, we're still. We've been really good. We got a grant from Help Musicians in November.
Amazing, yeah.
It was amazing news. And we've been putting a lot of that to good use. And I can't say exactly what we're using that for at the minute. But one of the things that we're getting with that, we're getting loads of advice and meetings, where we ordinarily would have been able to do, obviously in person, we're still able to do those through Skype calls and stuff. So we've been talking to some really great industry professionals and getting some really interesting views and meeting really like some of the things that these people have done is just crazy.
Amazing, man.
Amazing. It's lovely just to have the conversation with them, let alone for them to actually be giving us like real advice.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how they're handling the situation as well as we are, because they're just as in the dark. And, it's a bit of a scary time for the industry because no one really knows when it's going to get back on its feet. And it might not ever go back to the way it was. It's almost certainly going to be very different. And we're all going to have to learn how to cope when that becomes the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, you got these great things hopefully happening to you post lockdown. What can you tell me? Obviously, there's some stuff you can't, but what have you got planned post lockdown? Have you started thinking about options? Obviously, we don't know when it's going to end, but have you started thinking about plans or ideas that you want to achieve?
Yeah, we had a pretty concrete, we had a moderately concrete plan set in motion before all this sort of happened, and then it occurred to us that when we were going to execute that plan might now coincide with when everyone else is planning to execute it on account of everything that's going on. So there's going to be some rethinking about when it's going to happen. We're still in debate about that. There could be, we might stretch it out, we might still do it closer together as we want to do, because obviously the big thing that we want to be getting and doing again is touring.
Of course.
And any releases that we might have planned would have to be, we want to keep it around that as well, because you want to keep that intrigue of, here's the new material, here's the tour to go and see it. as opposed to here's the new material, and then a year later you can go and see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm dead excited for you as well, and obviously it's an adapting time for bands and artists and stuff, but it's also a time of adaptation for the wrestling industry as well.
Yes, which is my word.
Which is fantastic. Obviously, you know, I mean, where do you, before we talk about how like WWE have been dealing with that, with the Boneyard match, which is going to be our focus today. You know, what do you think? How do you feel about how everything's been adapted? Because obviously, a lot, you know. Wrestling is an essential business now in Florida.
Apparently, certainly not to do with the big suitcase of money dropped off anywhere.
No.
But I don't know. I'm not entirely sure I agree with it. I think, I mean, the example that I would go to would be someone like Roman Reigns, who obviously has taken a lot of time. He's completely said to himself, you know, he's immunocompromised. He's a leukemia sufferer. Mm-hmm. You know, he can't afford to be taking those kind of risks, but I think it's very strange the fact that there's a lot of he's not being mentioned. There's a lot of footage. There's rumours that there's a lot of backstage heat on him, and I'm like, he has cancer, you know. Like, obviously, he's not going to take. Like, I can't believe they're not being, you know, more supportive and being like, yeah, this is. Like, he's doing the right thing here. He's not taking any risks, and he shouldn't be. You know, for a company that has done, God, I wouldn't even be able to count how many Make-A-Wishes they must have been a part of when you think of all the things that all the superstars must do, and various other campaigns, and the Susan G. Komen thing they do every year as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like they should be a lot more sensitive to it, and it might be maybe it'll turn out that actually it's not at all what we think, and they're not just trying to downplay that Roman. Maybe they're just doing it because he's not there, and they want to focus on the superstars that they do have at the minute, and they want to, like, okay, well, if Roman's not here, we'll focus on Seth and Drew and Braun and all those sorts of people.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I think it's that way.
Yeah, it's a good point you make. I think, you know, like I said, there is that, but then there's also. They've stripped Sami Zayn of the title, the Intercontinental title, and that's because he decided not to. He didn't want to risk his health. And they did say initially, didn't they? They were like, we're not gonna punish anyone if they don't want to perform. But then Sami gets stripped and stuff. Do you think that's about? Do you think, like you say, do you think it's about, you know, just, I guess it's what you'd like to think, just powering on, powering through, and just because they can't just have no Intercontinental champion, and they can't just have
exactly,
So it's just kind of powering through.
I would like to think it's that. And you know what? I don't so much have a problem with them stripping Sami Zayn of the title, because it's been a thing in its other promotions would do the same thing. Look at I think it was John Moxley, wasn't it? From New Japan. Was it their United States?
Oh yeah, I think so. Was it
New Japan? Because he wasn't able to defend it. They said, okay, well, we're going to have to strip it if you're not going to defend it, which makes sense. And no one was kicking off about that.
Yeah,
maybe people were kicking off about that, but I think that does make sense, because you don't want to have any title taken off your television without your broadcasting for fans to be able to see it and to be able to sort of, I want to see this title be defended, because it's the Intercontinental Championship. There's a lot of history behind it. It can't just disappear for however many months. Depending on who's holding it, sometimes it does.
It's a good, but exactly. They did a bit of hot potato with it, didn't they, before lockdown? But I mean, it is interesting because the UK. So they've had the Cruiserweight Championship was taken from John Devlin. The NXT Cruiserweight Championship as it is now was taken from John Devlin, because obviously he's living over here in the UK. Yeah. And obviously he's got to defend it over there. So there are swings and roundabouts. Some people are a little bit, hurt about the Sami Zayn thing, because he's obviously in America and he's able to defend it, but he's just chosen to look after his health. But like I say, it's been interesting. Money in the Bank was interesting. That was one of the gimmick matches they did.
That was quite fun.
I thought it was pretty entertaining. I enjoyed Otis winning that.
I did. I enjoyed Baron Corbin murdering Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black.
Yeah, absolutely. Just throwing him off the roof. Absolutely. Before we talk about the Boneyard match, while we've got you here, what was it that got you into wrestling in the beginning, and who are your favourite sort of standout wrestlers, not just in WWE but across the world?
I mean, I've always been a WWE guy. I think there was a very brief stint where I watched in maybe 2006, 2007, where I sort of tried to give TNA a go when it was still TNA.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for me. I wasn't that invested in any of the characters. I quite liked AJ at the time, and Samoa Joe, I think, was one of the big ones. But I was never that fussed about it, and I'd end up just going, just go back to WWE. I think the first... So my older brother and one of his friends used to pretend to be the Hardy Boys.
Nice.
They were their favourites. So obviously, Matt and Jeff. I lost my mind when Jeff came back in 2006.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I absolutely lost my mind at that because I was like, oh my god. Because when I actually started properly watching it, I remember very clearly the first segment I ever watched was it was the first SmackDown after SummerSlam 2004, and it was the segment where JBL comes out, still got the championship, having been last rided through the limo, and he's got the head gear on, he's got the whole neck brace, and he's got the hat on top of it, and it's amazing. And I thought, God, I hate this guy, because just the way he was talking and how he was just berating everyone. I thought at the time I played into it. I would have only been about 8 or 9 or something like that. I was like, I don't like that guy. And then Taker comes out and he's like, oh, you said he wasn't here, like to Orlando Jordan, and he's like. And I just was like, this is great. And then he comes out. I was terrified of The Undertaker. Absolutely terrified. Because when they showed him the image of him, like, look at that face after he's done it and he does that thing. I was like, oh, because I'd never seen that before. And I didn't know who he was. So that kind of sparked the interest for me. And then I went back, and I think the first proper pay-per-view I ever watched was one of my brother's friends had a video of Royal Rumble 2000. And that was the first one I ever watched. So the first matches I ever saw were obviously Cactus Jack and Triple H.
Oh, nice!
Wow, and that opening Hardy's Dudley's table match as well. Oh my God, absolutely amazing! So for a first pay per view, it's a very good choice, I'd have thought.
Absolutely, man, absolutely. And so, who are the wrestlers that kind of pick your attention in today's world? Like, obviously, you're a WWE guy. Who are the sort of standouts you enjoy the most now? I
mean, by far and away, my favourite wrestler is definitely Bray Wyatt. I've loved Bray Wyatt since he debuted, because I never knew anything about NXT, but when the vignette started in 2013 with just the theme of it and how creepy it was and how well edited and cut together it was with all the little jump cuts and glitches.
Of course, yeah.
I just thought it's so well done. It's really like I used to love, all the millions of times that Undertaker would return. Yes. And they had the creepy vignettes for him. And they had one, I think it was when he returned at Unforgiven in 2007 against I think it was Mark Henry.
Yeah.
And they had a really particularly creepy one because they always used to get like little girls doing dialogue in it and stuff like that. And they're like, she was there, sort of thing. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, the whispers. Oh, like, he's here, yeah.
And it was like when I started seeing all the Bray Wyatt stuff, I thought, oh my God, this guy's going to be the next Taker. And I loved it when he debuted. And then it kind of fell off because they booked him so badly because he just kept losing everything after. He was doing great up until, I would say, like, it stopped being the Wyatt family and it went to just being Bray Wyatt. Yeah. And then I was amazed. I was so happy when he won the championship.
Yes.
That was amazing for me. I was like,
that was awesome.
They finally pulled the trigger. They finally did it. And then he lost it to Randy Orton and they gave him the maggot projection thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, oh, no, they've already ruined it.
Yeah.
So then my surprise when they started doing the Fiend stuff, when they came out with Firefly Funhouse, I was like, I really don't know if this is going to work.
Yeah. What was you first thinking when they did the Mercy the Buzzard, when that cardboard box? Do you remember that? Tell me,
and then they had the Abby the Witch one, didn't they?
Yeah.
With the dollhouse. Yeah. And I thought, I wasn't sure it was Bray, to be first. I thought maybe it's going to be someone entirely new, but I was quite happy. And then I thought, no, because he's got the Buzzard has the little sort of Hawaiian shirt going on, doesn't it? So I thought, oh no, it could be Bray. And I was hoping, like, I thought it was just going to be like a weird little sort of add-on, but it was still going to be like the Bray Wyatt we knew.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect it to just be this whole new gimmick. And then it was the Funhouse. And I've always admired Bray's ability to go from that really kind of happy, playful, and just how quickly he can sink into just like, now I'm super serious, deadpan, super creepy. And I love that because I think it's so engaging.
Absolutely.
He just
Absolutely.
brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I'm a huge Bray fan as well, and I love the fun house thing. Obviously, we're talking sort of around the same wheelhouse with WrestleMania and the Boneyard match today. Do you think, what were your overall impressions of sort of these theatrical matches? We'll talk a little bit about the Five Live Fun House match as well. Do you think it's a good direction for the future of WWE? And what were your overall impressions of Undertaker's Boneyard match first?
I definitely think they're a great. Certainly in the current climate, I think they're absolutely brilliant because obviously when you're doing it pre-recorded, you can add things into matches that weren't previously there. And it's not the first instance of it either. If you look, like, obviously in the near past, obviously you look at things like the Final Deletion and everything that, all the broken Matt Hardy stuff that he's done in all the various promotions he's been in. And that stuff's been amazing, if not like super over the top. But that's kind of the fun of it, is it's not meant to be taken too seriously. But the way they did it with Taker that I really liked is that I kind of felt for a while like Taker was my favourite wrestler for a long, long time. Like, even when I sort of went away there was a long period where I wasn't interested anymore, and then sort of slowly drifted back into it. And like when Taker was still there, I was like, he's still amazing.
Yeah.
And Shine's kind of gone off the apple for me because I feel like, not that the gimmick's gone too hard, because the gimmick itself is, I feel like, still going strong, but obviously he can't wrestle in that same way.
No.
And when he came back in the Boneyard match, but he was American Badass Taker and Big Evil Taker, now he's suddenly a lot more believable to me because he's not trying to do the Mystique thing. He's just Mark Calloway beating the hell out of AJ Styles. And he's calling him Alan, and they did the whole call out with Michelle McCool as well, and it made it feel... Yeah. It was a great angle for it to take, but it just made me feel like all of a sudden, like Taker could really beat the hell out of AJ if he's just having a fight with him, as opposed to having a wrestling match where they have to do it in a wrestling way. And I feel like it's such a great direction to take for that kind of thing. I think it's helped Taker so much.
Absolutely. Do you think that's his last? Do you think that's his last one? Because there's been a documentary, hasn't there, where The Last Ride on the network, and he was talking about how he keeps coming back because he hasn't had that perfect match, that final match. Was that match for him? Do you think, Joey?
I think it could be. I think it certainly would fill the criteria of what he's looking for, which is that in the same documentary, he said, he wants to look like he's still got a lot left in the tank. He doesn't want it to be like going out to the point where he's going out because he can't hack it anymore. He wants people to think, he can walk away happy knowing that people have seen that last match that didn't have any of those like mess ups that we've seen in things like Taker and Goldberg, the Crown Jewel match, Taker and Roman, all that kind of thing. The stuff that we've seen that he's just not happy with at all.
Yeah.
For good reason, because, it's a 30-year career this year?
Yeah.
30 years in WWE, and that's an unbelievable legacy. And obviously all the things that Taker's done, from the streak to all his championship victories. Of course he wants to bookend this how he wants, and he deserves to be able to do it how he wants, because as much as fans might turn around and say, maybe it's gone too far, maybe he is becoming a parody of himself, and that might be Taker's biggest fear, he's earned the right to say when he can call a day on it. I think Edge said something quite similar in the same documentary. He was like, it's the caveat of, because he has that kind of tenure, no one else really has the right to tell him to hang up his boots.
It's a good point, actually. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it like that. It's a really good, it's a really good way of looking at it. I think, do you think there's a sort of a potential then for them to tie in? Because obviously, going back to Bray Wyatt, Bray Wyatt has tackled John Cena now. He's tackled, Seth Rollins. There are a few parts of that story left to do, and one of them, of course, is the Undertaker.
Yes.
Do you think that is it jumping the shark, so to speak, if you combine the Boneyard match and the Five Live Funhouse match? Is that too much? Like, is there space for that in the future? And
I would love to see it.
Yeah.
I think there is a possibility that if it wasn't done right, then it could be far too much, and it could end up being what no one really wanted. And maybe it could combine, maybe not the less good elements of both of those sort of feature matches, but at the same time, I don't know about you. I was a little disappointed with the Wyatt Taker feuds that went on. I did like the match at WrestleMania, to be fair, because it was, if for no other reason than because I just wanted to see Taker again after the streak ended, and I was just so happy to see Taker there, even though his entrance was during daylight.
Yeah.
But can't really help that. That was quite funny. But I did overall enjoy their match, if for no other reason than from that. But when they had Brock and Taker at Hell in a Cell, they had that amazing Hell in a Cell match that was just, it absolutely tore the house down. Then Bray Wyatt came out and did that thing at the end, and I was like, they're going to do this again. Great. But then they had that Survivor Series match that went nowhere.
Yeah.
And they had Taker coming out with his big 25th anniversary Titantron, and it had a big thing of him behind him with like all the different forms he's taken, and it was morphing between them while he was walking down, and Kane was there. And I was just like, it didn't do it for me. It really didn't. But I would like to think that, what's that, 5 years ago nearly? Yeah, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Both, Wyatt now has this even more amazing gimmick that everyone is losing their mind about because it's so unique, so interesting, so it just completely draws you in. Like his debut against Finn Balor, oh my god, I was just like drooling, just like, this is just, I couldn't believe that he came out with the lantern. I thought that's an amazing move.
Yeah, the head.
Never in a million years would have thought Vince would approve that, but here we are. But I absolutely would love to see a match between the two of them in that style. Maybe even in the same way that they did with John Cena, and have Taker kind of regress through the different stages he's been in his career. I don't know. That would be, I think that might be a bit difficult to pull off. And it might be difficult because they've just done that with Cena, and you don't want to have like a Firefly Funhouse match just be that kind of gimmick of go back through the past and then you go, sort of thing.
And unless they take him back to American Badass, you know what I mean? And
I would love that. Love it. But I do think that the Fiend would win. He should win. He should be able to go over.
Absolutely, I agree. I think it would, it would definitely harm. It would harm Wyatt beyond repair. I think if Taker won, and
Goldberg loss alone was.
That was terrible. And I found out the other day that that's because Goldberg didn't want to lose. Goldberg refused to lose, which is, in retrospect, that's even more frustrating. You know what I mean?
I know, because he was like, I want to be a superhero to all the kids, and it's like, yes, but you're kind of killing what might be the biggest money-making thing for WWE in a long time.
It is. It is, absolutely, man, absolutely. So before we finish then, so what is the next opponent, straight up, next opponent for Undertaker in the Boneyard match?
I don't think he's done with AJ yet. Given, obviously, they had the thing on the Money in the Bank where he went into the Undertaker room. He said on SmackDown this last week, he was like, I hope Taker saw that debut sort of thing. So I think they're going to revisit that. I think they're going to have a match at some point. It's difficult to say because I don't want him to jump into a thing with Wyatt straight away. I feel like there's maybe some more stories. We've never really seen anything with Taker and Seth. Mm-hmm. I think that would be an interesting one. I'd love to see some more interaction between him and Drew as well.
Yes.
As not so much as Badass Taker versus heel, but more as Badass Taker testing WWE champion, or maybe him versus Braun, because that's one that was rumoured for WrestleMania 33 when Braun was still too green, which he was, to be fair. But I'd love to see that as well.
Absolutely.
And all of those, just given the nature of how a Boneyard match works and obviously being pre-filmed, it kind of doesn't matter who he does it with, because you can always use that editing and having those takes and giving Taker the room he needs to sort of do it his way and make sure he's happy with it as well. And it will always look amazing with whomever you put it up there with.
Absolutely, man.
Except this time that he won't be murdering Gallows and Anderson forever.
Yeah, forever. Gone completely.
Chokeslam to the roof.
Chokeslammed into oblivion, never to be seen again. Yeah, absolutely, man. Second hot take then. Who's the next opponent for Bray in the Funhouse match?
Oh man, I'm quite liking the story he's doing with Braun at the minute. To be fair, I enjoyed that they didn't jump into Braun versus the Fiend straight away at Money in the Bank. it was quite an interesting match. I thought it was odd the way that they had Braun do, put the mask on, now I've taken it off. That was a bit of a weird finish. But I like that they didn't give Bray the win straight away. And now he's at the point where he stopped trying to get Braun back on his side. And he's clearly like, right, here we go. Here comes the Fiend. Because we had the little flashes at the end of it. And now we've not seen Bray for a few weeks. And now Braun's got this handicap match at Backlash. So I'm definitely predicting shenanigans.
Indeed.
Or at least an end of the match shenanigan after it's all said and done. Braun wins, lights go down, Fiend, bang. And then we've got, for the next pay-per-view, I'm not sure what the next pay-per-view is after this. Is it Extreme Rules?
I think it might be Extreme Rules. Well, but yeah, I'm dead excited to see. I'm dead excited to see what happens with the future of the Fiend for sure. And one of the things I wanted to ask you as well, just winding down and going back to the band stuff, talking about imagery and aesthetic. One thing I've loved about Faux Pas is you kind of recall a lot of that kind of 90s alternative rock. There's elements of placebo in there. The video stuff you do is very great. The visuals are really cool for the band. So how important is that? Talking about the Fiend and the Boneyard match and the aesthetic there. How important is Faux Pas aesthetic and the visual side of what you do as a band?
It's interesting. There's a lot of back and forth and a lot of debate about almost every factor of the band, including the music part of it. I don't know, but I've heard of a lot of bands who will go into rehearsal rooms and put out a song and they go, yeah, that works, that's fine. But we don't do that. We're very meticulous. We go over and we drill songs for hours and hours. We have whole rehearsals. Like before Centre Stage, we did in 2016, we just drilled the same 3 songs over and over and over for hours and hours at a time to make sure that they were exactly where we wanted them, that we tested all the different options that we had. And we were like, cool, we'd all agree that's the best bit for that and that. And we slot it together and we go, right, now we practice it as this sort of honed in focus. It's like a focus group almost. Focused in, we've got this little nugget right there. And then we do that so we can get it like that every single time without fail. And it really, honestly, it's the best for us. It's the best way to rehearse because once you get that second nature part of it, then you can start thinking about the image that comes with it because it's just as important to look the part in the industry, obviously, as it is to play it. It's not good enough to be good at your instrument anymore. Yeah. Maybe it was years and years ago where they could be like, oh, that's a good band, but they don't really know what they're doing with their image. But I can take them on board, put a label on them, and, we can work on that sort of thing, Whereas nowadays, you have to be able to do all of that. You have to have the look. You have to have the sound. You have to have the business skills. You need to know as much about the industry as possible. There's so much that you need to be a part of nowadays, and it's getting harder and harder to do because if you don't know those skills, you'll never stand out from the crowd. And we have a lot of focus on that. And I'm really proud to say that everything that we do, like you say, I'm thank you for saying that you love the music videos and all the images and stuff. And all of that's done in-house. It's just us that does that. We very rarely get outside help from videographers or anything like that. We're very fortunate that our manager, Joe, is incredibly adept with a camera and knows his way around editing software. And he's great at it. He's produced all of our videos. I think there's only one video that was produced, but that was also produced by another friend who used to live with the guys. He's called Callum.
Oh, yeah.
But other than that, I think the first video was done by Shot by Sodium from Leeds.
Nice.
And that was through Centre Stage that we got that opportunity as well, which was brilliant. And it was a great day of filming, a great few days of filming, actually. It was the first time any of us had done a music video. And then since then, we've sort of gone, right, all of these are homemade now. So we try and make it a bit of fun, like in the video for Ego, we've got Dodger in there, who's Joe's dog, his little pug. Nice. Dodger is the best loaf of bread I know.
Cool.
You have to have a little bit of, I think we did our time with trying to be super serious about everything and the videos being dark and mysterious and rock. And I think with Ego especially, we took our time and went, let's just have a bit of a laugh with this because we all love what we're doing. And we want to make sure that we keep doing that. So we can have the serious stuff in there and we can have the cool shots and all that kind of thing. But we need to have fun with it as well. Because if no one like. It's nice to see a band kind of do the serious thing, but it's also nice to see that the people that you're watching really are enjoying what they're doing, and it's believable.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the thing.
Absolutely. So what kind of, just like I say, just to add on, I keep adding questions here because I am really interested in the band side of it as well. What are your influences musically, and how do they kind of fit into the band?
Mine personally.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I see a lot of that. The sort of obvious comparisons you get, the '90s alternative rock comparisons, the plus, etc. But where do you come? Where do you come at the band from?
Oh man. I'm trying to put it together. There's so much that I listen to at the minute. There's very few things that I'm not really that into. Like when I went through, before I was a musician, I was a break dancer.
Oh no way! Awesome.
Yeah. And so I've got a real love of hip hop and sort of old school funk and stuff that came through all the music that you would dance to for that. So there's a real range, and I think that's where I sort of, when that and music combined, it kind of led me to Motown, and I really do quite like Motown. I think it's a very interesting kind of movement of music from a historical perspective, not even just musically, but obviously music as well. I had a really big metal phase. I still have, there's still a few metal albums that I'll listen to very regularly. I love bands like Periphery.
Amazing, yeah.
I've met Periphery. Well, I've done a couple of drum lessons with Matt Halpin.
Oh, nice.
And he's amazing. He's such a great guy. He's a really good teacher, and he's an absolute giant. He's about. I was like, "Hi, man, how you doing?" And he's just looking down at me like this. He's huge dude. He's so stacked, but he's so nice.
Awesome.
But yeah, like there's a massive metal influence from me. I love bands like Hiatus Coyote. A band called Woo Park from Chicago, who I don't think are a band anymore, unfortunately. The Steve McQueens, who are all kind of like neo-soul funk kind of stuff, like quite modern. Erykah Badu, Jan La Havas. I'm trying to think who I'm listening to at the minute, because I've had a few songs that I've downloaded that I found just through lockdown and being at work and stuff. James Blake's new song "You're Too Precious" I really like. I've always loved James Blake. His first album,
super talented.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely amazing. Everything. Their new In Birdsong, I think it's called. I really like that one. Bon Iver. Oh man, it just goes on and on and on and on. And loads of acoustic stuff. But I also like, as much as I like all these kind of niche and more pretentious, in a way, sort of things. I also quite like some old school like bangers. I only recently realised just how many great songs Kylie Minogue's done.
Yeah, Kylie's.
I went back to one of her compilation albums, and it's got all. I'm just thinking, oh yeah, I remember that one and that one and that. Oh my god, there's loads on it. I forgot about these. It's amazing. So I like a lot. I think you have to have an eclectic mix. I think it's important to do, and not just as because I do session musicianship as well as being in Faux Pas. I play for other bands and session work, all that kind of thing. And not even just for that. I think it's important for everyone to have that eclectic taste in music, because I've never been that kind of person that can only, when you hear people who are just like, oh, this genre only or die. And I'm just like, really?
Yeah.
Come on, man. You don't have to be that guy. There's plenty of stuff out there.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. I think it's important to make that distinction between there's no such thing as bad music, technically. There's always going to be someone in the world who'll appreciate that thing that you don't like. And I think that's the biggest hurdle I've had to overcome as a musician, because there was a point when I was like, I hate the pop industry. I don't like anything that's pop music, and anything that's in the charts, I'll never listen to it ever. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But, as I've sort of matured as a musician, I've realised that actually it's not bad music. I can't blame the musicians involved or the artists involved, because there's only taste. Yeah. That is the end all and be all, is that you don't like it, but there are people out there who will. And that is true for pop music, for all music, for the most obscure thing you can think of. There is someone out there who will enjoy it and will feel something from it. And ultimately, you can't take that away from them.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Like I say, Joey, congratulations on all the Faux Pas success. Obviously, I look forward to seeing how you develop. I'm looking forward to catching up with you guys again. Since we're on a wrestling podcast, and I got to keep reminding myself that if you could soundtrack any wrestler's entrance from across the world with Faux Pas music, what would it be?
Oh, that's a really difficult one. Oh man. I mean, obviously, I'd love to say The Fiend, but I don't think we're quite heavy enough for that, given what his entrance music is currently.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd really like to give it to like a badass female wrestler, someone like maybe Shayna Baszler,
Nice.
or Ripley, actually.
There you go, Rhea Ripley. That'd be good.
Like Rhea Ripley, I think she's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, yeah, obviously there's some stuff you've got planned for the future, which is fantastic. Obviously, social media links, anything like that. What have you got to promote? Have you got anything to tell people about?
Yeah, we're on all. We've got Twitter, Spotify, Instagram. They're all at Faux Pas. I think Faux Pas York or Faux Pas York UK. All that kind of stuff. Check us out. We've got Spotify, Deezer. We're on all the streaming platforms. We've got music videos on YouTube. Go check out a company called Come Play With Me as well, who like That's My Ego was on their vinyl release.
Yeah,
and
Tony's amazing. They're great people.
Yes, absolutely. Go check out the boy who left home to learn fear as well, which is Mickey Dale.
Mickey Dale, yeah, he's a legend.
I mean, he's our producer. He's absolutely amazing. We love Uncle Mickey.
Yeah.
And all the work that he puts into. He's been doing stuff with. He was on Marzican's newest album.
Yeah.
So go check out his stuff as well.
He's incredible, absolutely. Well, great plugs for other people, which is fantastic. And obviously, it's great to talk about the band as well. Looking forward to catching up with you again next time we want to talk about wrestling, man. So,
thanks again.
Thanks for joining. Yeah, it's great to have you on the first episode. Yeah, first episode of Bands on Wrestling. So it's good, man.
Awesome, number one.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, man. Thank you so much for your time.